but the Obama phone would be like way cooler. Welcome to episode number 11 of Unrelenting. I am Darren O'Neill. I'm coming to you live from the beautiful city of Chirac. Still alive. No COVID here. But how are things in Austin?
Things are pretty good. Man, you sure have a high-pitched voice there, don't you?
Yeah, I know. You dropped about 14 registers since
I'm down episode. A wee bit lower than normal here, yeah.
Yeah? A little bit lower?
Not really trying to be. It's just the way it's coming out of my mouth now.
So how you feeling? I mean, I know all of your COVID tests say negative, but...
negative for all the COVIDs, but look at, this is the amazing part. So I flew on an airplane.
No, one of those big metal tubes with all the germs inside?
Where every single person is forced to be masked up.
But wait, no, masks, don't you understand? Those take every bad thing and they keep them from going into your mouth and stuff.
Well, exactly. And then somehow, after flying on this magical virus bus, I managed to... well, it was like a day later, but I'm pretty sure this is where the infection happened. I start getting a sore throat, and I'm like, uh-oh.
That is the first thing they're saying with Omicron, little scratchy throat.
Well, it's the first thing with about half the diseases that are virus-based out there.
True. So, I had something like the April before COVID, the worst sore throat that I've ever had. So I don't know. Who knows what's going around?
Yeah, something is, but I did do a test, and then I did another test a day later, and they're both negative for COVID. But you know what this means is, oh my God, that means either the cold or flu or both or whatever the fuck I have are back.
So you have to stay in your house for the next, 18 years? Don't go outside, quarantine.
I was planning on doing that anyway, but...
True. The life of a podcaster is perfect for disease.
Exactly. It's like, there's not a whole lot of difference here, but... either way, I actually haven't been at all sick in like 3 years. So it was a bit of a reminder and shock to me that, oh yeah, I remember this is what it used to feel like pre-COVID when you just get something seasonal.
Right. Now, have you been taking any supplements like the vitamin D3?
Oh, I'm on everything. Dude. I mean, I'm probably taking 15, 16 pills every day at this point in my life.
So whatever it is going to beat these supplements. It's bigger and badder than whatever that is.
I don't know that it's beating anything, because while it has definitely affected the timbre of my voice, the sore throat went away in about a day, and it hasn't been sore since. I never got stuffy nose. I never got any sinus stuff. No lung issues, not coughing, no joint pains. I can still taste food, but I don't have an appetite. Like, I'm not I think yesterday all I ate for the whole day was just one quesadilla.
So pretty much just fatigue and a lack of an appetite.
Yeah. Fatigue, lack of an appetite. I'm like, this is familiar. I think this is the flu.
Sounds like it,
And typically, though, the flu would have more body pains and shit. But I think because of all the crap I'm taking, all the different vitamins and zinc and like you said, quercetin and all this and tons of vitamin D and all this stuff, I think it's drastically reduced the side effects of the flu, but it hasn't eliminated my having a flu.
Right. Which is it makes sense. It is taking these symptoms and making them less severe, which is the same thing that at this point any of the vaccinations are doing, because they're
I think this is probably a lot less severe than the vaccinated people.
You never know. I mean, there's been vastly different anecdotal evidence on that kind of stuff.
Yes. I mean, people have died because of the vaccination. So
people have died because of
vitamin D. I don't know about
people have died because of the flu. People have died because, in inhaling cigarette smoke. People have died from just about everything at some point or another. It's just a question of how many.
They have. Occasionally they die from
red meat. Too much bacon.
Not where I was going to go. And those are good things that nobody's ever died from. I don't know what you're talking about.
It's a lie.
That's a complete lie on your part.
Bacon.
Nobody's died from bacon in the history of bacon.
Bacon is the healthiest thing you could eat.
They do say it is now being recognized as one of the most healthy things you can eat.
I mean, it's the most delicious thing you can eat.
And that ultimately has always been the pre-programmed response that both animals and humans alike have is taste. If something tastes good, it's good for you. That's how your body is developed. Because all the people that think something that's bad for you tastes good, well, Darwin takes care of them. And so the only people that are left over to reproduce and pass on their genetics are people that think things that taste good are actually things that are good for them, like bacon.
Right. Which obviously you will live to your 105 if you have bacon every day. But do not take medical advice from.
I don't know why you're saying I would have died 15 years ago, but okay. That's kind of an insult.
It's the bacon diet.
Yeah, bacon. One of these days, maybe when we're back to doing video, and the only reason we're not doing video today, I actually had a few things ready for video, is just because I'm literally wearing a bathrobe in front of the mic.
You didn't want people to just go run screaming from in front of their screens.
I just don't need people like making fun and pointing out that, oh my God, you can't even dress to do a podcast. What the fuck's the matter with you?
They're like, you're sick, man.
I didn't even have the energy to put on a tracksuit today.
You are gutting it out, as they say, which is, that's admirable. I said, if you fall asleep halfway throughout the show, I'll just, keep going. I have no problem with that. I mean, I hope I won't fall asleep halfway through the show, but I'm pretty sure I'll fall asleep like 5 minutes after we end the show. Which is what you do it anyway, because the show takes it all out of you. But it was nice that you didn't want to make people see you in your bathrobe, because then when you fall asleep, maybe the bathrobe opens up.
I start drooling. I mean, it's just not a place you want to go.
It's not a pleasant visual. And I have to figure out a way to do all that too with the lights, because the light for me really messes with the vision and trying to read stuff. So that's not that I read a whole lot during the shows.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the stuff is by memory and stuff that I would go back to. Hey, I read
you
this,
may be better
this.
off getting like a higher end camera that's more sensitive.
Better for the lower light.
And keeping the light level low so that it'll still look about the same, but overall light on you will be much less.
What I do is I need to test this. I've seen that there are magical ways to use either my Android phone or the Apple phone as a live webcam.
Oh, yeah. I've got that set up.
Which, if that were, I think that's
my secondary phone, my secondary camera on the live stream.
Yeah, and the camera on the iPhones is pretty damn good, even on the
it's really SEs. Good. No, you're absolutely right. So I'll tell you the name of the software that does it right now. It's called.
We know this is part of
Epoch Cam Pro. EPOCCAM Pro.
We will look at that, test it out. I was surprised that
it works really good. I play around with it.
Scott Adams uses multiple iPads to broadcast. Which is, wait, do you not understand? My brain just broke thinking about it again. Is that rather than doing one source, one camera, and then splitting that to his locals and to YouTube and to Twitter and all the places that he goes out, it seems to me that he does like every one of those on a different device, which is weird.
Well, I never really saw Scott Adams as a particular pinnacle of technology.
True.
I mean, here's the dirty secret with Scott Adams, the creator of Dilbert, is that he was not Dilbert. He was the project manager in real life, working at IBM. So he created a character that was his main character, which was actually not him. And a lot of people just assume it was him.
Right.
But of course, he's the project manager that Dilbert is making fun of.
And you're like, oh, you write what you know, which is kind of cool, I guess, because that means it's more self-deprecating then, because those are obviously
totally
the people at Dilbert that get the brunt.
It is. And I think he just had a lot of opportunities of stories from the engineers that he worked with and how they behave and how, they're kind of crazy. And, well, we all know what they're like. Like tech people, especially ones that have been around for a while and they're fairly successful.
Get jaded.
They kind of, a little bit. They have a few complexes that they develop over time about like everybody else being a moron and never listening to them. And if people would just listen, then the world would just run perfectly smoothly.
Well, that is exactly what I experienced with Scott Adams, because I know he does the live stream, his simultaneous sip thing. And I almost never notice close enough to the time that it starts to figure I'll jump on and check it out. Now, the other day, I happened to be in my email when it came in, and I decided for once to check out the live Scott Adams thing, see what he's going to talk about. And he was talking about the fact that 2 of his iPads basically died, crashed, something bad happened to them overnight, which I'm assuming a software update borked them or something. But because of that, the audio on YouTube was bad. And he said he knew it was bad. There's nothing he could do about it. And he was telling people that, hey, you can go to my locals. You don't have to pay. I mean, I've heard it was the whole Gene thing. You know, you can go there. You don't have to pay, and you can get on the live stream there, because I can't fix the audio on YouTube. And the comments on YouTube, I guess, were, because he's got a lot of people that watch and listen to him. All the comments were about how crappy the audio is. And he's like, if you keep complaining about the audio, I'm just going to turn off the YouTube feed. And he's like, I'll give you 1 minute to stop talking about the audio. God.
That's ridiculous.
And then they didn't.
People love that stuff. People always want to talk about it.
So then he pulls the plug on YouTube, and he starts talking about something else. And he's like, now all the people on locals are talking about the audio.
Exactly.
He got 10 minutes in and just said, we'll try this tomorrow, and bailed.
Wow. Holy cow.
And this was like the first time I ever tried to watch one of these things. And I thought it was kind of funny that was the reaction. But before he went live, this was kind of a 2-prong where I kind of came away thinking Scott maybe was a little dumb. Was before he went live on YouTube on the locals thing, he was talking about the fact that his family loses so many Apple earbuds that he has $1,000 a month budget to replace earbuds for his family.
That's insane. That's insane, man.
Why would you tell anybody that? And then he made the comment like, well, of course I can afford that, but that's not the point. It's like, why would you tell people that? Who you're asking to support you at the $7 a month level.
Right.
You know, I can honestly
he's
say
at $7 as well. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's where he's at. And I can tell you the money that I get goes to buy groceries and that kind of stuff for the podcast.
I thought the money you get goes to pay for what's his name? The Irishman.
The Irishman, Bill O'Reilly. I don't even pay for that. My parents pay for that. I'm just.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good. So you're getting that for free.
Yes. So I was always like Bill, was never watching until COVID hit. My parents love Bill, and that was their nightly news. After Bill went off, they don't want to watch no Fox News or anything like that. So I just,
my dad did the exact same thing. My mom never gave a shit about politics. My dad definitely was one of the, original Fox guys. Like, he liked the lineup that they had starting out, and
they came out strong. I mean, when you look at what they had to what network news is now, not network news, but cable news. How far are they falling?
It was really good. Yeah, they're horseshit right now. But I think it wasn't just when O'Reilly left, but when Glenn left and a bunch of other people. My dad just stopped watching Fox and just went to, what is it, OAN?
Yes, which just was, I guess DirecTV's dumping OAN after the contract is over.
Which is hilarious, because it's like, yes, we don't think that a percentage of the people that give us money should be watching something that our millennial employees don't like, and therefore we're just going to dump the channel. Well, let's see how many people dump your service. You can get everything on the internet now. You don't have to have cable.
I don't, it's like, and I have never looked back. I've never felt like I needed to have the cable connection up until the point that we dropped it. The only thing that you somewhat had to have the cable connection for was live sports. And even that is out the door now, because it doesn't matter what live sport you want to watch. It's streaming somewhere.
Well, and I believe, I don't subscribe to this shit, but I believe YouTube has a live sports deal now where if you pay for YouTube, whatever package, it gives you all the live sports games, like basically the equivalent of ESPN.
Right. Which is a lot better. I mean, the streaming quality, I remember watching streaming baseball when it first started, and it was like, oh, wow, this is horrible even for baseball, which is zero things happening usually. You know, the most you get is, very little movement on the screen. It's not like hockey. Now you can watch hockey streaming on a 100-inch screen, and it's like, this is perfect. It is perfect.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, and I don't watch hockey often, but I do watch it during the Olympics, and it is always so much nicer now with the high def, with the 4K signal coming in on my 160-inch screen that I couldn't even imagine going to a game anymore.
Well, yeah, because it's better quality.
It's way better because the camera is flying around, zooming around the whole arena.
Now, of course, nobody's bringing you nachos or anything like that. And
but you think they're not?
Okay, you have the really cool package.
I have the Uber package.
Yes, see, that's good, and you don't
Uber
have
food.
to. And I like the cold, but my wife, who always liked hockey, was never a fan of going to the games because it's like 40 degrees in the in the barn, and it's much more comfortable no matter what watching sports at home. Which is why it wasn't this dumbest concept, although it kind of is. The concept when the baseball games had nobody in the stands, where they came out with an app where the fans could cheer from remotes.
Right. No, that's good. Thing about baseball, though, it's so different. You're not really going to a sporting event. You're just going on a picnic where there's some stuff happening kind of below you.
It depends on where your seats are, but yeah, that's
well, I usually don't have seats where the events are happening above me.
Well, if you're right behind the plate, you're right at that level.
You're still above the plate, man. You're
I don't know. There's some of the front rows are a little bit lower, and
really?
So yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, in my experience, anyway, you're usually still up above. But either way, to me, that's always mostly been a picnic. You're hanging out with friends. You're ordering crappy food. You're drinking whatever beer, whatever you're drinking, and there are moments in time over the 3 to 5 hours where something interesting happens.
Right.
But you're not really paying attention nonstop to the puck flying around.
Right. Yeah, that's not nonstop action.
Yeah.
I loved going to White Sox games when Mark Burley was pitching. A crafty left-hander, couldn't really throw more than, high 80s, was not a fireballer. And I remember
this is the former Minnesota Stocking team. Yes.
The beauty was the guy got the ball and threw the ball. There was an opening day that my mom and I went to that was 97 minutes long, I believe, was the game time. The people, 90s, yes, 97 minutes.
I don't know. I might feel ripped off at that point.
Because they had seats on the club level. So
what was the score?
1-0. It was a 1-0 opening day, 97-minute game.
Holy shit.
Against the Cleveland Indians. And the kitchen couldn't even get the food out that people had ordered on the on that level because it's
my God.
What, the game's over? Oh my God. What? How?
That has got to be a record.
He was one of the quickest pitchers out there. And of course, you then have to have an opponent that also pitches quick to have a game that and two teams who aren't scoring. That also helps for that day. But once I saw Mark Burley pitch a perfect game, I knew I was never going to go to a baseball game that was any better than that. It was kind of depressing, really. It's you might get to go see World Series wins, that, and it's all kind of exciting, but the perfect game was the ultimate, because Mark Burley was my favorite pitcher. I mean, if I have to go back, he's right up there, even though totally different styles with guys like Tom Seaver, Nolan Ryan. Burley was the everyman. He was the guy that was sliding across the tarp, during rain delays and getting yelled at by the general managers. A big fan favorite. So for him to throw a perfect game, which at the time it was only the 21st or whatever in Major League Baseball history, it's not many people get to say I was in a Major League Park when a perfect game was thrown. So it's all downhill from there.
No, for sure. But let's not bore people. Let's actually talk about some topics.
This is a topic.
This is just jibber jabber.
That's right. Okay. We make a good jibber jabber. We talked on the last show that we did before the last show, which was the interview we did with the dude named Ben.
By the way, the interview with the dude named Ben, he reached out to me and said, "So did anybody listen to it? What would you think?" I'm like, dude, we got way more positive comments on your show than we do on our normal shows.
Yes. Multiple people. The concept overall was, I started listening. I thought it was going to be really boring, but it wasn't. And right. I thought that was really a testament to Ben's storytelling, the ability to engage with idiots like us and explain the stuff in a way that is exciting, which is kind of like if you go back to being in high school and college, there are a lot of subjects that in the hands of the wrong teacher, boring as hell. In the hands of a teacher that can actually engage with the topics, it's really exciting to hear the stories. And he brought a lot of humor to it. And I think he scared the hell out of a lot of people, which rightfully so. I was waiting to hear some of these clips show up on No Agenda. Is Adam not listening? I mean, they talked about the power grids. We had the dude named Ben.
We did indeed. He's a good guy. He's interesting. And like I said before, I definitely encourage him to do his own podcast as well, or at least be a regular guest on some other folks' podcasts, because he does have very good insight. He's fun to listen to. And he is a dude named Ben.
He would fit well on a lot of the tech type shows.
Exactly.
So do that, Ben, if you're listening.
You better be listening, Ben, or else.
And if Gene drops dead for whatever he's got here, I mean, I'll be looking for a replacement.
Yes, we know how that works. You're right. The next morning, and you're like, okay, who's my next replacement host that I'm going to be doing this with?
Hey, you got to keep looking forward, man. You got to keep going forward. And unlike what's going on, we talked about on the last show before the interview that Joe Rogan and Tulsi Gabbard were on Getter, and Getter was the really, really hot thing. And it's cooled off a little.
It's cooled off, and I think it's cooled off even more after the interview with the CEO of Getter on Tim Pool. It definitely changed my mind big time. I was like, "Yay, competition for for Twitter. This is great." Signed up on there. Haven't really, I don't really post shit, but at least I'm lurking.
Right.
And then listening to the CEO, I'm like, oh my God, they're literally trying to build a clone of Twitter, but with a conservative bent. So every time the guy says free speech, what he's referring to is conservative speech, not free speech. Because whenever Tim pressed him on topics like, what if you've got somebody that is posting about Jefferson's quote about the Tree of Liberty needing to be watered with the blood of patriots. Oh no, we'd ban that person.
Really? They just said they would ban that.
I mean, there was maybe that's not an exact example, but there's literally like 30 different questions that Tim asked of like, well, what about this? And what about that? And they're super willing to ban people on anything that they consider to be violence or I don't know how I'd describe it, but essentially very similar to Twitter. Like if Twitter banned people, but without a liberal bent, if they were just like, this is too controversial, we're not going to have this on our platform, then that essentially describes Getter. And I guess there's some dude that I'm not following this stuff, but somebody already got banned that's very high profile from Getter. And Tim was asking, so what did he say or do that got him banned? It's like, well, he's a known white supremacist. Well, no, he's not. He's never said he is one. He's not a member of any groups that would indicate he's a white supremacist. The only thing is the media has called him a white supremacist. And I think this is the guy who's like the founder of the Proud Boys or something like that. And who's incidentally Latino. He's not even white. But somehow he's been labeled as a white supremacist by the media. And
well, you can be a black white supremacist now.
Yeah,
don't you know?
I guess you could, but you're not really black unless you vote for Biden. So.
Right.
So are you then really a white supremacist with black skin? Are you really just in blackface?
You may be. That may be even worse. But that's the problem with all of these sites that say they want to be free speech. Because if you're really free speech, then you let the white supremacist and Nazi talk, you let the Nation of Islam and Farrakhan type people talk, and you let everything go.
Or just quit saying you're about free speech, because you're not. You're just targeting a particular audience, much like Twitter is targeting the woke crowd. Getter is targeting the anti-woke crowd.
Right, because part of free speech...
Neither one is free speech.
Well, right. Because free speech, if you're going to be an absolutist, that means if you want to troll somebody and harass somebody nonstop, that's free speech. As long as you're using speech, you can't be like,
absolutely.
Oh, well, no, they were bullying, or no, they were.
There is no such thing as bullying without physical violence.
Right.
That's bullshit. That's the redefinition of terms that just demonstrate the overall failure and weakness of American men.
I would agree. Sticks and stones, man. We go back to that.
Back in my day, and I'm sure in your day, that expression of sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me, was taken as something that you were taught when somebody teased you and you felt bad, and your parents or whoever would tell you, just keep this in mind, because it doesn't matter what somebody says. You shouldn't let words affect you negatively. I mean, you may not feel good about them, but words are words.
Right.
They're not physical actions.
Yeah. You decide how that's going to affect you.
Yeah. And you know what bullying is? Bullying is some kid that's like physically a year older than you when you're in elementary school, coming up to you, punching you in the shoulder, and then taking your lunch money. That's bullying.
Yeah.
Somebody like telling you something you didn't want to hear on the internet. That's not fucking bullying.
No, that's called telling the truth. Most likely.
Quite often. Yeah, quite often. Exactly. And I have actually an example, and this is where my clip comes in, of the liberal racism that is hidden in plain sight here. And so it's about a 30-second clip. I want to play it here and see what you think, and we can discuss it. But I was just, I couldn't believe it when I heard it.
Who are we listening to?
So this is I guess he's the, what is the guy? So he's the head of one of the states of Australia. So I guess he'd be the equivalent of a governor, but they probably have a different political term for that in Australia. But it's one of the Northwest Territories. It's one of the states with a high Aboriginal population. And I did not write down this guy's name, but it's kind of irrelevant. It's just when you listen to the audio, my jaw dropped the first time I heard this. So I had to play it. I did take all the pauses out of it because there was quite a bit of pause in here. It was probably like a 2-minute clip when it started. But see what you think.
This is an important message to keep Aboriginal people safe.
And the message is probably an important one to keep everybody safe one.
You can die from the corona or get really sick.
You can pass away from this corona, or you can get really sick one.
It's time to get the corona needle to keep people and country strong.
It's time to get them this needle from a corona to keep them, but all the people and country proper strong one.
The corona needle will protect kids, old people, men and women.
Well, the corona needle gotta keep them a safe one for all the kids and for all the men and women.
Many people around the world have already had the needle.
Big more people all around the world been already get them but their needle.
It is free and it's safe.
That needle block corona is free one and is safe one.
If you're worried, talk to your clinic or medical centre, or go to Roll Up for WA on the internet.
If you are worrying about talk like yours one clinic, or go to a hospital place, or go to get himself Roll Up on the internet.
So get your needle now and stay strong. Thank you.
So you will get him that needle and stay proper strong one, and thank you.
Okay, you understand what's happening here. He had a translator translate English into what all these dark people speak.
What would be kind of like Ebonics in the United States.
Uh-huh. Exactly. I don't know how you get more racist than that, because I don't know about you, dude, but if that counts as another language, apparently I speak one more language.
I speak Aboriginal.
I totally speak Aboriginal because I literally I don't need a translator to speak like that.
No,
to understand what she said.
Right. If you were to take out what he was saying and just play the female, you'd understand. You might be like, that's a little weird phrasing, but I get it.
Exactly. And if it was in the context of this is an Aboriginal person explaining the benefits of Corona, I totally get it. And I understand what she's saying. What kind of mentality does it take to think that this is a good idea to translate English to English so that the darkies out there will better understand what you're saying? Do you think the Aboriginals that listened to what she said couldn't understand him?
No.
Oh my fucking God.
There's no way. There's no way in the world.
Yeah, it's this whole, and this is exactly the same thing that we have with the liberals and the way they treat black people in the United States. Is this whole like, you poor person, you're not nearly bright enough or educated enough to be able to have a good job and provide for your family, and you would just starve on the street if we didn't hand you out some money and give you extra benefits because you're incapable of actually being a self-sustaining human being. That's the messaging.
Yeah, equity. It's a very important equity.
Oh my God, yeah, and I'm sure that in the discussions for setting this up, their conversation in whatever political office they have is like, oh, this will be great. We're demonstrating how we're totally connecting with our Aboriginal population.
Now, the source that this from, just to be absolutely clear, you're sure this wasn't like their version of Saturday Night Live?
No. This guy is well known for being extremely lib and for being extremely pro Corona. And the source is literally his tweet.
Wow.
It's an official tweet from the Australian government.
Wow.
Trying to, persuade the Aboriginal population to get the shot. Not to mention the fact that it has lies in it, much like all Corona-related vaccine conversation about perfectly safe. Yeah, if you don't mind, people getting all kinds of negative results as a result of taking the shot, and from brain hemorrhaging to heart issues to women stopping periods to all kinds of things. This has all been documented in the U.S. at least. I'm sure it's no different in Australia.
It's very weird because that was one of the things that I had bookmarked was a article from the Jerusalem Post, which talks about a bunch of studies where they gave placebos rather than the vaccine. So this is going back a while, I'm guessing. This is the data finally coming out. This was scientists at Beth Israel Medical Center in Boston. They looked at data from 12 clinical trials and found that the nocebo effect, how cute is that, accounted for 76% of all common adverse reactions after the first dose of a vaccine and 52% after the second dose, which means there were like 76% of the people who got the placebo who had the headache and these other minor side effects that people have been reporting, which it's really kind of interesting.
The minor side effects I could totally see. The other thing is,
we're not talking about the people that are getting myocarditis and having blood clots and all of that.
From a little bit of saline. I don't think that's going to fly.
But it's interesting what the brain will do, which is like, I think I got one of these vaccines and they're telling me if I get this vaccine, I'm going to be tired and have a headache the next day. So I do.
Well, but to be fair, even if you're injecting saline, but the way you're injecting, in order for it to duplicate what your actual vaccine for Corona shot is it has to go into muscle tissue, so your arm, and it has to be a multi-pronged delivery, which means not that you stick in the needle once and you slowly squeeze it out, is that you're doing actually multiple quick little shots to that location. So even if you're doing that with saline, that's going to be, that's not the type of typical disturbance that you're used to. Sure. It's probably more similar to somebody getting a new tattoo. If you're getting headaches from getting a new tattoo, I know your skin is going to be definitely more sensitive in that area and stuff. Anytime you fuck with your body, there's going to be some perceived negative aspect to doing that.
Either positive or negative?
Well, I mean, there's always some negative. I don't think there's ever any pure positive. Even when you start taking like new supplements, quite often when you first start introducing a new substance into your supplement regimen, you'll have a negative response to that. Like you feel a little bit queasy, or you're like extra thirsty, or some kind of difference in what you're used to, because now you're dumping like a whole bunch of vitamin D or whatever that your body's not used to. And it takes a little while for it to adjust the baseline.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I certainly, placebo should not generate anything long-term or severe, but I could see placebo still generating some complaints for sure.
I like the story that was out of India that Larry show covered, which was a guy that was addicted to the COVID shots. He was giving his family and friends names. And before they figured this out, he had gotten 11 shots over like a 3-month period.
Oh my God.
He said he felt like Superman, which I thought was kind of funny. Yeah.
Well, that is purely placebo effect.
Well, yes, of course.
You sure as hell are not by constantly introducing a vaccine into yourself.
No.
So you mentioned
he didn't drop dead. So, I mean, there's a plus there, I guess.
Maybe he is Superman.
Because
so you mentioned Ebonics, and I have a little sample of that here.
Mofo butter laying me to the bone, Jacob. Take me.
Sorry, I don't understand.
Cuddy say can't hang.
Oh, stewardess, I speak jive.
Oh, good.
He said that he's in great pain and he wants to know if you can help him.
All right. Would you tell him to just relax and I'll be back as soon as I can with some medicine?
Just hang loose, blood. You're going to catch up on the rebound on the med side.
What it is, Big Mama? My mama raised no dummies. I duck a rap.
Cut me some slack, Jack.
Say cutting
Chump don't want to help. Chump don't get the help.
Say can't hang. Say 7 Up.
Jive ass dude don't got no brains.
So which airplane was that from?
That was Airplane 1. That was the classic, the first one.
Now, who was the female actress? The voice is very familiar.
It is. It was Leave It to Beaver's mom.
Oh, June Cleaver. Barbara Billingsley?
Yeah.
Damn.
Yep. So she speaks fluent jive, apparently.
But yeah, that is very similar to
it really is
what we just heard.
It's sort of like, hold on.
Especially the stewardess saying, well, tell them I'll be right back. It's like, they understand English.
Exactly. They understand English. So that's kind of what I felt like when I heard that actual Australian clip. Is like, oh my God, life is now not just parodying comedy. It is surpassing comedy of 40 years ago.
Well, and it's being done under the name, under the label, under the guise of, being woke, and we have to be inclusive. And it's like, wow, that is just so without a doubt, it just treating people like they're children. It is so condescending. It is
extremely condescending. Absolutely.
But hey, I mean, I guess that is the new world order. If Joe Biden can go on for an hour and 45 minutes on how great he's done over the last year, I mean, we could just tell fairy tales all day long. Can you still say fairy tale, or is that now politically incorrect?
Is it? I don't know. I guess maybe that term has now been taken over by
another group, right? Maybe.
Another group. Exactly. I don't know.
You have to be very careful what you say.
I do remember watching a boy, this is going to date me. So I think it was the 1976 version of the pornographic version of Cinderella.
Okay, and your DVD collection must be vast.
Believe me, this was not on DVD.
Oh, it's still on beta? You got an old beta going?
No, movie theater, buddy.
Okay.
And that was a good movie, actually. It was a good, decent sized production. But I remember that the fairy godmother was indeed a fairy. It was a black gay dude.
That works.
And it actually worked quite well. It was pretty funny. But, like people had a sense of humor back then, back in the 70s and even in the 60s. Like there was like you could both laugh at things and not be accused of being a
horrible racist.
Well, but not just racist, but
sexist,
being a phobe of something. It's
right.
like
there's a lot more phobes, it seems now.
There's insane. I think this is Adam's favorite little Dutch phrase of "you are what you call out the other person to be" in Dutch, which I don't remember in Dutch, but I think it's totally true because all these people accusing everybody else of homophobia and transphobia and, you name it, phobia, that is them. They are the ones that are afraid of life and everything in it. All the people they're accusing of these phobias don't have any fear of these things. Dislike is not fear.
No.
And just because you're calling somebody that, I think the term phobia in the context, certainly of homophobia, came about as really it's name calling. It's not any kind of scientific or psychological description.
No, it's an anti-religion play.
How do we insult somebody? Oh, I know. Let's say, oh, you're just afraid of gays. That's what it is. It's not that you don't like gays. You're just totally afraid of gays.
Right. What was an anti-religion play? That was the whole thing. Well, if those Catholics, the church where it was like, well, we disagree with homosexuality, but we do not, again, it's you hate the sin, not the sinner. This was like, oh, well, you're a homophobe. It's like, well, no, they weren't doing anything.
If there's one place that is definitely not homophobic, it's the Catholic Church with over 1,000 years of gay priests. I mean, come on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, everybody
they still tolerate them. Like even now, there's still tons and tons of priests in the Catholic Church that are still in it, that have a history of liking little boys.
That is because nobody is perfect, right?
Well, no, because it proves there's no homophobia.
It doesn't really prove anything.
Well, it does, because
right?
if the church genuinely was afraid of gay people, the church would instantly, at first accusation, without even any proof, would try and distance itself from the priest.
That's exactly what the woke mob wants, isn't it? For anything.
It is. Yeah.
I mean, that's
my point. So my point is that if the church was genuinely homophobic,
right,
then that's what they would be doing. But the fact that they're not homophobic, they're perfectly willing to, give these priests a second chance or whatever. And, I mean, I don't want to get into a whole conversation about Catholicism here necessarily. I'm not a huge fan, but, there are plenty of things where I will defend Catholics, on because they're clearly just wrongfully accused.
Yes. Well, their logic leaves the argument on so many things. That's one of them. It was like the baker who didn't want to make a cake for the gay wedding. It's like, but you can go to another baker. Well, no, we're going to force you to make the cake. Now you go the other route of this, for instance, if you were to walk into, Joy Behar, if she had a bake shop and you went in and said, I want a MAGA cake, you think she's making that for you? You think? I mean,
exactly.
Again, all of this stuff has to be treated.
Do you think any bakery in San Francisco is going to bake you a MAGA cake? Like any one of them?
They may poison it. I don't know. I would not.
They may.
That would be the interesting thing. Okay. If somebody in San Francisco can just go get a cake made, but then I would bring it to a lab and see what's really inside that cake. I would not eat the cake. If you're
maybe this is time, and I don't know what hasn't happened yet, because it seems perfectly reasonable to just start calling all these people MAGAphobes. They have MAGAphobia.
That would explain a lot of their fear. And they are.
And that would be a more accurate description, honestly.
Yes, they are truly afraid of
They
Donald
are afraid
Trump.
of MAGA. Yeah.
They are, which is, you're seeing a lot of this stuff. One of the latest stories was trying to pit Ron DeSantis against Donald Trump. The left is pulling out all of the stops. You see what's going on in New York right now. The district attorney is really worried that Donald Trump's property may not be worth exactly what he claimed it was. I mean, they'll let murderers and rapists and child diddlers, well, they can walk the street. But Donald Trump, man, we're worried about this guy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's extremely politically motivated, obviously. And I think a big part of this is that they've stopped trying to even pretend that it's not. Like, they just don't care. And I think Biden getting office and the self-admitted tampering, or what's their word for it? It's not, they didn't call it tampering, adjusting, whatever they did to the elections.
Right. Well,
do you remember what the word is? I can't remember what the word is.
I don't know exactly what they're using, but it was all the gerrymandering with, and they've been doing that for a long time with changing districts and stuff locally. But it was mainly all of this mail-in stuff.
Oh, fortifying. That's what it is.
Fortifying the vote.
Fortifying the election. Like they were literally coming out and talking about how, yes, we did this and that was a good thing that we did. It's like, dude, that is completely against what the election's for. You're not supposed to be mailing ballots from dead people just to get your way. That's not fortifying. That should be at least illegal if it's not.
Right. Well, that is one of the bigger problems is guys like Mark Zuckerberg, who spent $400 and something million to go out and get out the vote, even if they were legitimate voters, to go out and get the mail-in votes in the districts only that are a majority for the guy you want. Now, that's not cheating necessarily, but we know what that is doing to the results. We know now what it takes to win, which is somebody on the other side better have just as much money to have people go into the districts in the areas that are going for the other party and pull those in, because this otherwise will skew the election. It can make a difference, and I believe it did in the Biden election. But there was a reason why the voting had happened in the United States for as many years as it did. One, the Federalist system rather than the left now, the Democrats calling, we need to take all the voting under the big federal government. The federal government should control that. It's like anybody that hears that who doesn't run in the other direction and be like, I'm never voting for a Democrat again. Explain that to me.
Yeah.
Because I understand each and every state may have some problems, but the fact that you have 50 states who are all under unique control, they're not under one big umbrella, that if you don't understand that is far less susceptible to cheating, I don't know how to explain it to you. I really don't. But
except for your state, of course.
Well, no, our state has had dead people voting for years.
Yeah, you guys are OG dead voters.
Illinois, California, New York. I don't think there's any hope for those three states. I don't think there's a question that those are the worst three states for this kind of corruption in the United States.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But I think people are getting tired of this. I think people are finally seeing some of this stuff. I mean, one, you could point to the 24-year-old white girl that got killed in the LA area in the furniture store as maybe going to, it's always when something happens to a white girl, then people get more concerned. But this random violence where somebody just walks into a furniture store and stabs her and then goes upon their day.
Yep.
You can't let these people walk free. And I don't mean, these people as any particular skin tone. I mean criminals, murderers. You can't just be like, it's okay. You were victims. Your great-great-great-great-great-grandmother was a victim. So we're not going to put you in jail if you go out and rape and kill. That's fine.
Of the black population in the United States, and as Adam likes to call, they differentiate between ADOS and the immigrant black population. In the ADOS population, and I read this probably about 4 or 5 years ago, so I'd have to do some Googling to find the source. But something like 86% of that ADOS population has a white relative in their background.
Sounds about right.
And given that being the case,
this is a melting pot. This is what America's about.
It's like, well, I would like the left side of my body to, apologize to the right side of my body for being white in my great grandmother.
Does the left side have to give reparations to the right?
Well, I'm not even getting into that, but I mean, it's just like the absurdity of it. That's like saying that if you have let's look at the United States. So we were fighting in Vietnam, we were fighting in Japan, we were fighting in Germany, we were fighting in a bunch of places in the Middle East. So should every person whose parents were American on one side and from that country on the other side, should they be held responsible for what was done either by the United States or by that country, depending on which side you look at it, to the other side of themselves. I mean, it's complete absurdity. It's like you're not talking about somebody that was rescued from a Ku Klux Klan rally lynching and then saying, okay, well, this guy deserves like a check for $50,000 for the trouble you went to.
Right.
No, you're literally talking about people who've had likely plenty of relatives that were not directly from Africa, and people that are easily 10 to 15 generations from anybody that was brought over on the slave ships. And yet they're listening to the Democrat. And by the way, this isn't, I don't think, mostly black people talking about this. It's mostly the rich liberal Democrats that keep bringing this up. Because why? Again, because they don't consider these people to be their equals.
No, it's the Aboriginal thing.
It's totally the Aboriginal thing. They think of them as these poor little demented, low IQ, hardly above level of children that need to be taken care of as long as they vote in the elections for Democrats.
And that's the interesting part, because I think the Democrats are totally misreading a bunch of situations where the Latino community and the black community, I mean, that's one of Adam Curry's buzzwords too, the community. But that demographic, very religious. And there's a lot going on with the abortion stuff. There's a lot going on with the liberal policies that do not click with the family values of either somebody that's black or somebody that's Latino.
Absolutely.
And I think that may end up backfiring on them big time. I mean, there's the Democrat concept right now, which seems to be based upon one thing, and that is the greed of people that do not want to work and would rather take money from the government and are more than willing to sacrifice any freedom or everything. I'm better off with the government giving me money rather than me having a job. And I think that we are at some kind of tipping point right here that could still go either way.
Mm-hmm.
And the question is, which group of people is going to rise up when enough people realize that there are strings attached to all that government money? This concept that this isn't Bill Gates is my uncle and I can just get money anytime I want to, and there's nobody that's paying for it that will even notice that amount is gone.
Mm-hmm.
What we have going here is you're taking money out of your neighbor's pockets. No other way to describe what's going on. And at some point, you get tired of the fact that, well, wait, I want a new iPhone. Well, no, you're on government aid. You don't get a new iPhone. You get an Obama phone from like 15 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Which I think is ironic as hell. But
you think?
Yeah, and there are a bunch of books. I was looking for the one that I'd read, but I found a different one called, like, this one's called It's Okay to Leave the Plantation. There's a number of books that reference like The New Plantation or, Leaving the Plantation, things like that. And books written by black people about what we're talking about the plantation that is created by these wealthy liberals to keep the black population in this state of suspended animation where they're not progressing at all forward. And they're just expected to be really, less than full less than full humans in control of themselves, like literally children. And it's hard for me to understand why more black people have not very publicly just come out and switch parties because of the things you just mentioned. And because it just seems so damn obvious that were I in a situation where I'm being looked at the way that these rich Democrats look at black people, I'd be very pissed off at them because I don't like that feeling of being perceived as some kind of idiot.
Well, the assumption that any person is going to vote in a certain way based upon the amount of pigment in their skin should bother anybody as well. This concept of Well, if you're black, well, yeah, you're going to vote Democrat. Of course, Joe Biden said, you ain't black if you don't vote for Joe Biden. I think they feel the same way about the Latino community. I mean, there's really not that kind of nobody's like, you're white, you're going to vote Republican. Like, no, why would you assume all people of, that are black or Latino are going to vote in one way? You don't assume that white people. I've never heard like, all white people vote Democrat or all white people vote Republican.
Oh, no, you're wrong. All white people vote for Nazis.
Oh, do they? I didn't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I should be looking closer at my ballot then.
Yeah. No, it's you get a special ballot that is only Nazis, and you're going to end up voting for them whether you like it or not.
Now,
well, and this brings us nicely to another topic that I want to touch on, which is Trump. I don't know if you listen to my podcast at all, but
you do a podcast?
I do occasionally do a podcast, and I just had an episode come out just a few days ago.
It only comes out like once every 3 months, though, so I'm not right on the cusp of waiting for a new episode.
3 months. I'm sorry. I did 60 episodes last year.
Well, yeah, but there was a while you were doing 4 episodes a day.
So what?
You're like, I went to the fridge.
Shut up, man.
I got a beer.
Okay, now you're just exaggerating.
A little.
It's not getting a beer.
For comedic effect. You were getting a few mice to feed
maybe nice tea or something. Yeah.
Right. But Trump, he's still around.
Well, so Trump. So my episode was about Trump and how he should not be running. And I think that there are many reasons for that. And I know that it pisses off some people to hear that I don't think Trump ought to be running. And I voted for him twice. I have no problem admitting that. I think he was the right vote 2 times. He is not the right vote this 3rd time, aside from the fact that he's too old. And I don't mind calling him old because he's younger than I am. But nonetheless, he is going to detract from what would be a complete shoo-in Republican victory.
Right, because the news media is going to do nothing but bash him, where if they throw a curve and it's not Trump, and that if this was the setup, this would be the most beautiful thing ever, which is you get to that point and then Trump's just like, nope, not me.
Yeah, and I think that he has a place for sure in the Republican Party. He can be a Don. He can anoint people. He can help campaigns by giving them massive contributions, if nothing else. He can sort of be the voice of what people voted for when they voted for him in what do you call them? The pre-election election, the
primaries.
Primary, exactly.
Yeah, so they wanted somebody that wasn't a politician.
People wanted somebody that had never served in office, and that's what they got. But right now, the guy that is the most obvious person to win and win big is DeSantis.
Right.
And I got made fun of for mispronouncing his name, by the way.
Because you keep saying DeSantos rather than DeSantis?
DeSantis, DeSantos, DeSantas. Whatever that whole Latinx crowd wants to call him, I don't really care. I'm just going to call him DeSantis.
And I think that the possibility at this point, and I agree with you, Trump will be a distraction if he runs. I think he wants to run.
Of course he does.
I don't want to even try to guess whether he will or not. I do believe that if he does run, there's a pretty good chance it's a Trump and DeSantis ticket, which I think would be interesting.
It'd be interesting. Here's the problem. Trump is a big negative on DeSantis. I think he could win very easily by bringing a new generation, a new voice, a success of Florida to the ticket.
Yes.
Trump brings all the old stories about diddling pussies and womanizing and being twice voted on to be impeached and all this negative crap.
Yeah, but the economy was flying.
People don't remember things like that. What they remember are the little sound bites of him diddling pussies. And all that stuff will have to be rehashed that we wouldn't have to rehash with DeSantis. So I think it would be detrimental to have Trump on the ticket. I think there's a much higher chance of Trump actually losing and becoming a 2-time loser as president. And that would mean Hillary's probably going to end up being our president. And I really don't want that. But I'm also not voting for Trump. I've said this. I'm going to stick to it. If Trump's on the ticket, I'm not voting Republican. I'm going to vote Libertarian.
I think it would be interesting from the DeSantis viewpoint. If Trump wants to run, the VP slot for him is basically getting in for 4 years and then take over from there. I believe.
I think you're true, but I think it's true, but why? It's a waste of 4 years. Like he could be in there.
No,
right
it's not, because he's got the time. He's young. He's not as old as you or I.
Well, that's true, but there's no reason for him to wait. He would win against any Democrat.
Well, at this point, I would hope, because the Democrats have no good options.
Yeah. Hillary. They're going to run Hillary. I'm definitely sticking with that.
Do you think Michelle Obama wants this?
No, dude, that's not even realistic.
No, it is. I think it is realistic, because I think she would beat Hillary.
No way in hell.
Okay, get a red book.
Yeah, put it in whatever book you want. Not going to happen. She is not she's never been in office.
Barack had never been in office either. I mean, even though he was a state senator, he never showed up. He was off doing something.
And he was the first black man to be in office, and I think we all remember how that went. And I think bringing in his wife as the first black woman is not enough. It's not enough of a worthwhile, interesting thing to make it happen, even for the liberals. She has no qualifications to be in that office. And I agree with you. He didn't either. But I think there was enough of a push to bring him in, and he was running at a point where there was really nobody running from the Republican ticket.
No, there was not enough of a challenge, although that's what I think the Biden and Harris ticket was supposed to be against Trump. I think the whole COVID thing happened, and they're like, oh, crap, we're going to win. And then they realized they had one of the worst tickets ever that they had put out there. I think this was really supposed to be Trump's going to run away with this. And by the time they realized that the COVID fallout was causing the issues that it was, I think it was too late for them to do anything. And I guess I'm just still surprised that Biden's still standing at this point and hasn't been replaced for one reason or another.
Well, I mean, he's still alive, so I guess he's standing.
Yeah, well, kind of. But I would agree with you that I think Trump's going to bring more problems to the election. I think at this point, if the election was today, I think he would win. So I don't
think he will. I think it's really close. It's going to be really close. If he runs and he wins, it's going to be like a 51-49% victory.
I mean, nobody's going to pay attention to the mainstream media stories anymore. That's still my favorite game. I've mentioned that a few times recently on the podcast that I'm doing somewhere or other, that it's still one of my favorite things is to open up CNN online at any random time, their website, and see if the word Trump is in one of the top 2 to 5 stories. And it almost always is, because they have nothing but a hard on for Trump.
Yeah.
And I don't think anybody's paying attention to them anymore.
Well, that's very true. But also part of the reason I think that it's not likely to be a Trump victory is because we saw what they did to Trump when he got the biggest vote to come out for him in the history. Like, more people voted for Trump than had voted for any previous president.
And more voted for him in the second time. I mean, it was
that's what I mean. The second time, right? More people voted for him.
Except when we just had all of the ballot harvesting.
Enough. It wasn't. And what do you think? That's going to stop?
The laws may be. The laws may be at this point. I know there is some stuff going on in Wisconsin over this stuff they're saying that the drop boxes are unconstitutional for the Wisconsin state law. And I think we're too close to all this stuff that they're not going to be able to get this law passed anyway if they want to change it. But all this stuff that was the temporarily changed due to COVID, I think that when we look back, I mean, it's horrible that people got sick and died. Yeah. But I think the biggest fallout you're going to see from this is due to the election here, at least here in the United States, is from the election due to all of the changes that were made just for COVID, which, oh no, you can just You don't even just send your ballot in. That's fine. You can send in 15 of them. It doesn't matter.
I don't think that's going to change before the election. I think all the exact same things are going to happen. We're going to have plenty of ballot harvesting. We're going to.
Now, is it going to happen on both sides, though? I mean, are the Republicans going to be that dumb?
I wish it would. And the answer is yes, the Republicans will be that dumb, because there are plenty of Republicans that think we can win fair and square. We don't need to do any of this bullshit.
Well, that's fair. I mean, it's okay. I guess there's a big difference between fair and square and legal.
I mean, again, maybe. What the difference is, the Democrats have more often than not had zealots on their side. And a zealot is someone who predominantly looks at win at all costs. And plenty of Democrats have said that. Win at all costs. We do whatever it takes. That phrase right there is very common.
Well, the Democrats want you to believe that showing an ID is so very racist.
Except for COVID, yes.
Right. Then of course you have to show an ID.
Oh, of course. I mean, how racist are you if you don't want to show an ID for COVID?
Right. But to vote, that's different.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if the Democrats said, okay, we'll agree to IDs, but they have to be COVID IDs. The only people that have taken at least 6 shots by the time the election rolls around are qualified to vote. And all these anti-vaxxer crazy people, they're probably mentally unstable and they shouldn't be voting anyway.
Oh, you see, this is what the Democrats do then. What you do is you get rid of all mail-in voting and you make it so you can't leave your house unless you've been vaccinated. You're like, oh, shit, here, now red book that one, too. Talk about a plan.
I just think that there's a very strong optimistic exuberance among many on the right side who I know that are all in on this, like, oh my God, nobody in their right mind would ever vote for a Democrat ever again in the history of the United States, given what's happened with this last election.
And last year.
Last year. And my take is the opposite. I'm like, okay, first of all, what we saw in election fortification, to use their word, is the first time on a big scale. It's happened in the past on smaller scales. First time on a big, well, maybe that's not even fair to say. I mean, Kennedy got elected this way too, but it's something that has not been as prevalent as it was last time. No way in hell will that effort be lower on the next election than the previous election.
Now, is this just because we have the kind of data and polling that we do that the people that want to throw the money in, like the Zuckerbergs, know exactly where to put it? They know exactly what county in Wisconsin and exactly what county in Pennsylvania and exactly what county in Georgia and Arizona that you need to put the money into.
Well, I think it's a little more than that. I think that they have figured out that they don't really need to do anything until election day. And then as the ballots are counted and coming in, they've just got spare boxes of ballots to bring in. So it doesn't look too out of the place.
Well, I don't even think that's what they mean. Granted, that could be done, but I don't even think that's what they did. I think the ballots they brought in were legal.
Oh, they are legal. That's my point. They're quasi-legal. I mean, a lot of them are ballots that were filled out for people who may or may not have actually paid attention to what the person that's asking them what should be on the ballot. I mean, you've seen these undercover videos where the person that's getting the ballots is like, now, would you like to vote for Joe or somebody else?
Yeah, this is going back 20-something
well, I don't even know who was running, so I guess I'll vote for Joe.
Yeah, over 20 years ago, when my grandmother was in an assisted living place, there was a hubbub about that these people came through and helped the people vote. Yeah. And a lot of these people shouldn't have been voting because they had dementia and issues. And but this is the issue with what the Democrats are always willing to do and the Republicans are not. And so I think that just in general, the election is going to be very close, regardless of who runs. I think if DeSantis runs, it'll be a little wider spread with him having a very good chance of winning. If Trump runs, it'll be super close with, in my opinion, just as much chance of Trump losing as winning. Depends on who his VP is, I guess. But even with DeSantis as a VP, there's still a very good chance of Trump losing because all the same efforts are going to be put in place. All the same kind of assistance towards ballots
is going to be happening.
But is
Nothing
that any
will
different?
increase.
Is that any different that what they're going to put into that, whether it's Trump or somebody else? Do you think?
I think that it's easier to convince these nursing home people to remind them of how bad and evil Trump is than to just try and explain to them who the governor of Florida is, who they've never heard of.
They're like, well, but I had money back when Trump was in office.
Or like a lot of them live in Florida, or they have friends that live in Florida and they're happy in their retirement.
It's where everybody's going. Florida is growing leaps and bounds.
Well, and incidentally, of course, that's where I was, where I got my
disease,
my flu, my disease.
It's the Florida coof.
I wouldn't call it that, but I would definitely say that, it is technically true that after a trip to Florida, I ended up getting a virus. It's just not COVID.
Well, that's because nobody's wearing masks. That's where, wait, you know what?
Oh, the whole plane was wearing masks, dude. What are you talking about?
No, but in Florida, I mean, I saw Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. No, maybe you did. Were you hanging out with AOC?
Well, okay. She is pretty hot. I have to say that. I have no problems hanging out with hot looking Democrats.
Yeah, I could just see. This here's exactly how I'm imagining this happening. You're in Florida. You're hanging out in, Disney World, and there comes AOC with her little Minnie Mouse ears on, looking all cute. And you're like,
so how'd you know she was wearing those? That's totally true. That is totally true. She was totally wearing those.
You're like, hi, I'm Gene, and I'm a Democrat liberal. You're like a chameleon.
I'm a huge supporter.
Yes. I see exactly how
Thank God you're safe after that insurrection.
Right. Yes. I mean, we know what people
we
were
praying for your safety. Yes.
Yes. And you were in, like Flynn at that point. You were in. I'm telling you. But that's it. Florida people out not wearing masks, and the numbers have been interesting. And it's quite interesting that they've decided at the point that the COVID cases were showing, and I don't believe the tests, and I don't believe the numbers, and I don't believe, and I've been saying this for well over a year, that the case numbers mean anything. But it's very interesting that the government decided those didn't mean anything once they start hitting over like 1 million new cases a day.
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting.
And I loved in the last No Agenda, when the stories talked about, that was a clip for mainstream media talking about the huge rise in children coming in with COVID, to where it was like, I don't remember, it was like 180 new cases, maybe 800 cases. I remember there was an 8 in there of children coming into hospitals with COVID. And of course, that includes people that came in for other reasons that were later tested and found to have antibodies. But
yes.
What?
Yeah.
That is not people coming in for COVID because they're so miserable and sick that they need to be put on ventilators. That is people visiting the hospital in normal course of events who happen to have a flu virus variant. And furthermore, not even an active one necessarily, because they have antibodies.
Right. That could mean I had it 2 weeks ago and got better.
Could mean 3 months ago.
Right.
So it is just ridiculous. It's literally telling somebody who is now safe, at least for a while, from getting infected, saying, oh yeah, no, you're clearly you're reported as a COVID person coming in here now. It's like, no, you literally can't get sick. You've got antibodies. But they're going to classify you as a COVID spreader.
Well, it's the whole fear porn thing. I mean, the UK, believe it or not, as we heard today on No Agenda, the UK is like, we're done with this. Now, the question is,
I think the UK is mostly just trying to get rid of.
Well, they want to get rid of Boris.
Boris, yeah.
But this is an effort, and everybody loves this. Of course, now what happens if you control the testing again is those numbers could go right back up. It'd be like, oh my God, Boris let everybody take the masks off, and now the cases are 14 million. Oh my God. Yeah. And then they'll be hanging him from a tree.
Brits in general are extremely compliant. Apparently not as much as Australians, but in general, they're very compliant. They have a long history of bureaucracy ruling the way. There's been tons and tons of British comedies about this, and there's certainly plenty of historical videos as well about just the power that bureaucracy has in the UK for anything from, installing a fence post on your own property, to, who you're allowed to hire, for a particular type of job. And it's like everything is very controlled. And people are very used to being told what they're allowed to do and not allowed to do. There isn't this, what we used to refer to as American spirit, which is a spirit of individualism, which meant people wanted to be left alone and do whatever the fuck they wanted.
Right. It's Larry's luck. Leave us the fuck aloners.
Yeah. And as long as it doesn't harm anyone physically, I have to say physically now, because talking at someone is not harm.
Oh my God, you said something I don't like.
Exactly.
You're hurting me, Gene.
See, now you sound like a South Park character.
You're hurting me. Come on, stop it.
Yeah. All right. So, you got anything else?
Yeah, well, this is a story that I'm sure we'll be hitting back at some point again. But there was a report, I don't know if you saw this, that the IRS, if you want to log into their website, it will soon require a selfie and an account with a third-party service, which is ID.me.
Okay.
Which it said was I don't know if they thought this was a good thing, founded by former Army Rangers in 2010. It is a company that's evolved into providing online ID verification services. But the concept that you need to use a photo of yourself attached to your IRS file in order to access it, it's like, fuck you. No, this is not a good sign. But we can't require identification for people to vote. But if you want to get into your IRS account, we need a photo of you.
Yeah.
What sense does this all make? I still don't get it.
It's just more data for them. They like having data, and they don't mind farming it out. ID.me's been around for a while, though. I think they were primarily used for ex-military and providing a proof of ID in websites, government sites, or public sites that required proof of like past service. Essentially websites where it wasn't good enough just to say, "Yep, I served in the military."
Right.
These guys were the ones that typically were found out the solution.
And they may know what they're doing.
Oh yeah, I have no doubt the company is going to be perfectly fine doing this, but I think your bigger point is, why is the IRS doing this?
Yes. It says, so to get an account, after uploading an image of your driver's license, state-issued ID, or passport, you then will be prompted to take a live selfie with your mobile device or webcam so they can do a facial recognition to see if you match, I would guess, what's on your ID. The person that was trying this for the Zero Hedge site said it actually took a few times to produce an acceptable result. And then once that's accepted, they ask you to verify a phone number, and it cannot be a voice over IP such as Skype or Google Voice. So it's like they really want to. Well,
then they don't have a phone number. I mean, a lot of people just don't have anything else.
So you won't be able to get
like. There's no government requirement to have a cell phone.
There is now if you want to get into your account.
Well, so
but you can't ask for ID to vote, but you can tell people they have to have an ID.me account and a phone number in order to look at your IRS records.
Why would you want to log into the IRS? I'm not quite sure about that either.
I'm not sure if this would then be in order to submit your tax returns, which I know you don't have to log in to do. Maybe to check on the status of a refund, which I know that is one of the things that their website offers. But otherwise, I'm not sure, unless, again, there are payment plans, things like that you need to log in. It's just very interesting that the IRS is putting this kind of money into a system, because you're right. Anybody listening out there, how many people have logged into the IRS website in the past 5 years? I'm guessing not most.
Yeah, I think if you're doing like an 1080 EZ form or something, maybe you could just do it right on their site and not use any other service.
Perhaps. So if anybody else knows, I'm just kind of intrigued by this whole concept. And I think this is a bad way to start going with government IDs, which is, even this company may be completely legit. The fact that you're bringing in a third party.
How the hell are you supposed to do a picture of yourself for this anyway?
You need a cell phone.
Is there an assumption? So you have to, like, if you don't have a cell phone, you just can't log in.
I guess cell phone or webcam, because you need to verify that
neither one of those two is a requirement to be an American citizen.
It is now. That's the problem.
Yeah.
You're going to get a Biden phone. Would a Biden phone be better than an Obama phone? Or
I would hope so.
No, it would be.
It won't be a flip phone.
No, it would. The Biden phone would be a double-sized flip phone with the really big buttons. So,
yes, that's right. Okay.
The Obama phone
for the ailing eyesight. Well, I could actually use one of those.
Yeah, I could too. But the Obama phone would be like way cooler than the Biden phone. I don't
know, man. Obama phone was just a flip phone.
Yeah, but it was free, man.
Yeah.
But speaking
you don't think Biden's going to give you a free phone? Of course he is.
He's going to deliver it himself. That's going to be his new job. He's going to go door to door with a box of phones and be like,
everybody gets a new phone the day after the elections.
Well, only if you vote for Joe.
Well, obviously.
I think it's the day before the election, and you have to show him your ballot.
Yeah, that's good.
I wouldn't doubt
that. Yeah, just scan it, just take a picture and send it in, and this way we can keep all the Republican ballot harvesting initiatives in control that way.
And if you do that, you get a brand new iPhone. If you don't do that, you get the Biden phone.
Yeah.
Seems to make sense. But we are a value
nuts
for value podcast.
Yeah.
Which means we put
we are. So do we have any supporters, or are we dry?
We're fairly dry, but the locals thing is still confusing for me on how people can give like multiple months, and it does look like that gives them months at a time. So we need to kind of
go to locals, give us money.
Yes, go to locals. That's the best way. You can go to unrelenting.show. You'll find the link. Like HB Worth, it looks like came in with 6 months worth, which I'm assuming that means they're giving them 6-month access to any of the premium content, and then after that would be my guess. And these all came in over the last few months. Like Josh Mandel, I think we mentioned him, and one of the other ones was in for 3 months. Lord Daniel, Bully Steed, they all came in on locals, and that I'm still trying to figure out exactly because their system is not the most simplistic thing to figure out. It's not like, somebody just paid you.
I will say that the front end for the users, I think, is perfectly fine. It's basic, but it's easy to navigate. The back end for us is a little too simple and not horribly easy to navigate.
Yes, and we'll figure it out. But I just want to make sure everybody knows we appreciate if you came in on locals, and we're still figuring that system out. Sir Kilgore Trout came in via PayPal, as did Brian Hall. And of course, Jeremy Gertie still coming in with the streaming checks, and that is all very much appreciated. And we got to figure out the video. I mean, you just have to press play, I guess, at the right point, or record, and so we can see your pretty face. As long as, who knows? by next week. And
by the way, I've been meaning to tell you this as well. There's no reason that we have to limit our videos on locals to any part of this podcast, because for one, they have a 30-minute limit on video, so it's kind of useless for the podcast.
Oh, well, that sucks.
But it's not like 30 per month rate. It's 30 per video.
We could just jump on for various little chats.
So if I want to bitch about something, I may very well just jump on and record a quick little iPhone video and post it on locals rather than waiting for you or something. And I would encourage you to do likewise.
Yeah, so that makes sense.
Yeah. And again,
then we can bounce it through YouTube and get all those live comments and all that kind of fun.
There's a lot of cool stuff that we can certainly do once the YouTube thing. And I think video is pretty much figured out. Like I said, I'm just
once the COVID clears,
I'm feeling a little under the weather with this flu thing. And so I would just prefer to do it audio only this time, but
yeah, we hope you're feeling better by next week. Plenty of fluids.
I better be. Better be feeling better.
Otherwise, I don't want to fly to Austin for a funeral or anything. So,
no.
Or that be in Minnesota. Where? Because you got family in Seattle, and you came from Minnesota.
Yeah.
They're cremating you on the spot. Is there like a government agency that's just waiting, like top secret?
There is a dead man switch out there.
It's nice. Will I get like a very cryptic email if you drop just?
Oh, I'll tell you what. When the dead man switch is activated, is when you Google me and nothing comes up in the results.
Everything's gone.
Everything's gone all at once. Yes.
Well, that would be the coolest thing ever. If you had that kind of power to just wipe yourself off the internet.
Well, unfortunately, it's not me who has the power, but it is tied to a dead man switch.
And everybody be like, Fed.
People do like saying that. That's for sure.
That's a beautiful thing. I know. I mean, spot the spook. If Gene shows up at your meetups, then you know which one it is. Although he's probably not working for the government you think he's working for. So there's that.
I'm in private industry.
Yes, sure. Private industry.
Legitimate businessman. Yes. It says so on my business card.
Totally legit. That's the best business card ever. Legitimate businessman. Gene Nevtuliev.
Yeah. And you're like, somebody's totally not a Fed when they're just wearing a tracksuit.
Right. That's what I'm thinking, Russian mafioso. But if you want to subscribe, go over to unrelenting.show and then go to the locals link, or just go directly to unrelenting.locals.com.
What's the PayPal?
The PayPal is a link on the unrelenting.show.
Perfect.
And
but people don't have to remember it. They just click on there. Yes,
and I do need to make sure we have a page that people can go to and all that. But it's all there. Just go to unrelenting.show. You can't miss it. But with that said, we will be back next week. I mean, unless something really, really bad happens, send Gene ivermectin and some...
or maybe you get COVID.
Probably. It's bound to happen at some point. I had to leave the house the other day to go
to... Oh, no. You left the house?
Yeah, I had to go to the retinal specialist, and the left eye's tugging a little again, which is always what I like to hear. So I need to go back in 12 weeks to have them look at that again. But going into the hospital building for any kind of like...
you're just asking to get infected.
I know. Yeah. So I'm just going to knock on fake wood and hope that by next week we're both alive and well for another edition of the Unrelenting Podcast. You got anything else, Gene?
No, I'm good.
Until next time, then. Later.